So I successfully built a custom PC. So let's make a custom one-of-one mechanical gaming keyboard. And let's be real, I think a lot of you actually saw this coming. So here we are. Now this is fully on new key switches, which I'll go into detail about these. Then we got brand new keycaps, which I think are gonna look kind of sick. And then we have this, the KBD67 Lite R3, and this is a full DIY kit. So you guys can get all this stuff from mechanicalkeyboards.com. There's actually a link in the description already. But the thing that I'm most scared about, honestly, about building a custom keyboard is trying to actually find everything. So unlike a custom PC where you have websites, you have basic knowledge on what should go into a PC, keyboards are a little different because essentially you can build it in many different ways. Like you could build it in 3 steps. Like you could get the shell, you can get the chipset, you can get the key switches, and then obviously keycaps. So I guess 4 instead. But this one's a little different because one, I got new switches that are unlike the ones that I've had before. They're just a newer version. So for those of you who have a bunch of keyboard issues, I highly recommend watching this entire video because I'm going to show you exactly how each of these mechanical gaming keyboards are truly built. So maybe it can help you solve some of these really interesting issues that you always hit me up with. At first glance, this looks incredibly overwhelming. Like I'm literally way in over my head. And matter of fact, as you keep watching this video, it's actually not as easy as you think, but when you start to get the hang of it, you're like, oh, this actually makes sense. So like I was saying beforehand, a PC is kind of like a plug and play type of ordeal. And I was like, you know what, let's build a custom keyboard. Granted, I've never done that before. I don't think any of my friends have done that. This is all first for everybody. I don't think it should be too complicated. I just don't love how this is a DIY kit, but there's absolutely 0 instructions on how to do this. So I'm not sure how I am going to do this. Unless there was something on the back here where it's like, oh, yep, that's what it would be. You scan a QR code and it's a build tutorial. Well, let's watch this build tutorial together, I guess. We have a bad news bears moment going on. The build tutorial really isn't in English. It's in Chinese. Should we just say we screwed and do it? Because I already bought it and there's no returning it. Here we go. This is the moment of hopefully not a natural disaster. But now it was finally time to start constructing this custom one-of-one keyboard. So that first one says to test hot swap sockets. Not doing that. Top of that says pay attention to the direction of the stabilizer. It's recommended that you use enough lubricant to lube. We don't have lubricant, so we're not doing that. This guy here, okay, it's basically putting in a small Lego piece. Now I didn't realize how this was supposed to be an actual stabilizer because it's just 2 pieces of plastic going in and out of each other with a metal bar in between. It doesn't really provide any sort of stabilization. It's mad weird. Like it's all clear, so it's basically like this going in this direction. So again, this is where it says remember to use enough lubricant. So again, since this is the part where the lubricant was recommended and not just an optional piece, later on in the video, I realized that raw dogging this was actually not the best option, but it still works. This is what it's looking like. Supposedly that's how it's supposed to be. So that's gonna be the start, I guess, of a key switch. Just not 100% sure how that's going to work out because it's not really clicking that well. Again, that's why they say to use a little bit of lubricant. And something that I'm noticing about this kit right away is that it comes with extra parts. So just in case you mess up, you do have a second chance. Bam. I think that's correct. Now that we got the portion of those done, which that's like almost the majority of nothing. Now time to, it looks like, from what I can tell, get the chipset out, or like the, you know, the keyboard's motherboard. Now, obviously, anything dealing with electronics like this, you should probably de-static yourself, but I didn't. Honestly, I don't care. Now, it's time to put these little guys on, which these guys are dampeners. So these little stabilizers that are literally just a piece of foam, I think really their main purpose is to have a little bit of separation from the stabilizer that we put in step 4 to the actual key switch. Other than that, they don't really serve any other purpose. So we're actually going to start putting on these guys. There's like a little groove here that you have to kind of insert it in. It just kind of like slips in, it's like a hook, so you just kind of like tilt it in, go like that. And as you're watching this video, I want you to understand that all these parts and pieces that are being put into this custom keyboard are actually the same that a pre-built one would have. So if you were to buy one from Best Buy or wherever, these are the exact same parts. The only difference maybe is the actual hot switch function. And the only difference in that is if the switch is actually soldered onto the chipset or it's just spliced together like this one. Now we're gonna put more stabilizer gasket things. So we gotta flip this over. So where did these go though? So again, these are little 3M foam circles that go on the tops of these screw holes to essentially make a little bit of space or like a quote-unquote gasket between the screw and what the screw is being screwed into. It's kind of a useless little thing and it doesn't provide actual much stability or sound dampening, but so far this build is actually pretty good quality, so I'm not gonna complain. Okay, now we're at the 8 screw level. This is actually a lot more simple than I thought it would be. So basically these little guys here are, and they give you a bunch of extras. I get it, because you know it's a DIY kit. Not everybody understands this, so I can't really say myself understands it. But granted, a DIY kit that doesn't come with a Phillips head screwdriver is a little scary. Luckily, I had a little screwdriver just meant for PC parts in a drawer behind me. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend just buying a whole kit for a PC just in case you really do need it, because honestly these tools serve multi-purpose, so you don't have to use it just for a PC. But as I found it, I'm screwing in these little screws, and it is important to note they do not need to be torqued super hard, so just tighten them until you feel a decent amount of resistance. Now they're all fully hooked on. Starting to look like a keyboard. You can't really press down on it, it's more of a stabilizer in a sense. It's basically like if you can pull on it, it's fine, but like it doesn't spring back, which I would assume it probably would have had a spring, but... So next it was time to install the silicone gasket that goes around the key switches, which this actually does help because essentially it makes a watertight seal around the electrical components. But it doesn't help if it gets through it on the edges of the keyboard, so just make sure that if you put water on it, put water on the top of it, not on the sides. And then I'm installing the hard plastic plate that attaches the silicone gasket to the board. So finally got to the point where we're screwing all this stuff in. We have the tiniest black screws, which I don't even think this is literally gonna pick up on camera. If it does, I'd be really surprised. There it is. Now these long black screws, or I should say these longer black screws, are what's going to hold the silicone gasket tightly against the board and allow us to actually start putting in the very best part of any type of keyboard, the key switches. This is where the key switches come into play, everybody. These key switches may look like Cherry MX Reds. However, they are not. They are actually Cherry MX2A. So it's known as a silent red. I always love red. Blue is more for people who I think want a very gamer feel, like really stiff, not really meant for typing. And then the brown is more meant for people who want an intermediate. And I just want the silent red. So let's hear it. So let's just start putting them in. Alright, this is the definition of a hot switch. You're just kind of putting it in there. So the Cherry MX2As are actually the newer and improved silent reds, or the Cherry MX Reds. There's a whole bunch of them that you can pick. Like you could choose like a silver, black. I mean, it's all, literally like they've gone so far in preference. Remember how I was like, well, you don't have to solder anymore, or for this guy. This is 100% the truth. So yes, this thing that is circled is actually known as a hot switch. It's basically a splice of 2 connections so that way you're not actually soldering. So it's a quick and easy release and put in. Now, in my other previous keyboards, you guys may have seen me use dampeners by Roswell. Now, these key switches are actually so dampened already from factory that you don't need that. That was 65 key switches. Firstly, I want to say that this thing has some weight to it. Like, this is a nice keyboard. But key switch test in 3, 2, 1. Everybody go silent. Wow. Now we've come to the finale. This is the foam that I had said that I didn't know what it was for, but now I can see what it's for. It's just a dampening foam. So this thing is really becoming hardcore, like, dampeners. Okay. So, this is a cover. That's the whole reason why there's this guy. It's a little stopper. This guy supposedly has to be super tight to this, which it's not going to happen, but we're going to try it again. Hopefully it works. It's definitely not going to work. Yeah, wow, that's it. Alright, let's put this cover on, because this is what's supposed to be, like, holding it down. Oh, dude, this thing's looking sick! So, these little guys here are silicone bumpers, which we have to put on the top of the case, which actually they have an exact place for them. Again, these are just more rubber seal guards, so that way it prevents any type of liquid going actually into the chipset or the connection where the hot switches are. The last thing before keycap time is to screw this in. So again, this was a cover, which made a lot of sense. Now we just got to screw this in. Yes. Dudes, it's almost there. It's time to put the keycaps on. Once the keycaps on, we're going to turn this thing on and make sure that it works. So, don't go anywhere. I know this video has been so freaking epic. We got some ducky keycaps, and I hope these actually fit. I tried to get stuff that was like gonna clash with the orange. Keyboard has been finished. We got all the keys on here. Let's get like a little close up of how it sounds. Again, this is with no dampener. But the grand finale, does this work and does it turn on? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Sick. So guys, I bring to you my first ever custom gaming keyboard that is a 60%er. Yes, it is a tad bit different than the other ones I've ever had, but this is a DIY kit on mechanicalkeyboards.com. And here's the kicker. This kit costs, with the switches that you can customize, like you have to choose, and then the keycaps that you choose, it doesn't come with the kit. The kit's just separate. $215. So for $215, you can get a fully custom keyboard that you can build.